Darkblade, one of the original badasses of a Yu-Gi-Oh trading card game, at least in Playground Yu-Gi-Oh! A memorable monster for its rule of cool design and a decent 1800 attack for being a level 4 monster. But despite the fact that most Yu-Gi boomers could identify him in a lineup, it was used as the inspiration for a more recent monster, Mementotlan Darkblade. The Memento archetype as a whole is actually really cool. All of the monsters are skeletal reimaginings of obscure older monsters from the earliest era of the trading card game. The name and concept are meant to be a play on how they're sort of forgotten monsters, though I feel that doesn't apply to Darkblade in the same way it does to some of the other monsters adapted into Memento, because when the card debuted in Magician's Force, it wasn't alone. Being the set that really focused on Union monsters, several pairs were included to show off the mechanic, and among them were Darkblade and Pitch Dark Dragon. Well, actually that's a lie, because even though every other monster has one Union to go along with it, Darkblade actually had two, with Kiryu being the second. Pitch Dark Dragon has the standard Union monster effect. That being, while you control it face up, you can equip it to the corresponding monster or special summon it back onto the field from the spell and track card zone. Also, if the equipped monster would be destroyed by battle, you can destroy the equipped card instead. For unique effects, Pitch Dark Dragon just gives Darkblade an extra 400 attack and defense, and gives it piercing. Of course, we didn't have that keyword back then, so the text box really gets bloated. Kiryu gives Darkblade 900 attack and defense, and can be tributed to allow Darkblade to attack directly. Even though both of these dragons look really cool and I would love if they could both be used effectively, Kiryu just isn't worth the investment for being a level 5 monster, especially considering the fact that a card like Frontline Base exists and that allows you to easily summon Pitch Dark Dragon and Darkblade in the same turn. Making a level 4 monster with 2200 attack and piercing isn't terrible for the time that it came out in. The card with the artwork that depicts Darkblade on the back of Kiryu just allows you to equip or unequip during the opponent's turn or even the battle phase to get some more attack in, but it really isn't all that useful. Overall, I really do love how Darkblade ended up getting the most out of this with not only two different Union monsters, but even representations of how those Unions would look in the artwork of the generic support, like even in the anti-support with Union Rider, which allows you to take an opponent's Union monster depicting some robot dude on top of Pitch Dark Dragon. I know that we did also get the XYZ monsters here, which also had two different Unions, but I feel that Darkblade just had the theming done so much better. Too bad it didn't get the same support like the others did in the future. There would later be a fusion monster for him and Pitch Dark Dragon with a cool enough effect, allowing you to mill some of the opponent's deck whenever it inflicts battle damage, but from here on out there was basically nothing else. Sure, there were things like Metal Silver Armor, which shows off the armor worn by our favorite knight, and even newer generic fusion support cards like Centrifugal Field and Fusion Deployment, which show Darkblade and Pitch Dark Dragon together, but it plays more on them as fusion material for a monster from the extra deck rather than the Union mechanic, and it goes without saying that Kiryu is once again left out. Even cards that continue the lore of a monsters like Dark Contract with the Yami Makai show Darkblade getting further instructions from his master accompanied by his Black Dragon. The artwork is the coolest part. It doesn't even help generic fusion monster or union monsters. This is a DDD card. And there was also the retrain from Order of Chaos, Darkblade, Captain of the Evil World, which just bypasses union monsters and steals your opponent's light monsters. Relatively recently, Konami decided to try and fix union monsters, with ABC using the union mechanic as a way of bringing out monsters from the deck or elsewhere to the field, and giving them effects that trigger when they're sent to the graveyard. Not to mention a field spell integral to getting things started, and a fusion monster that can easily be summoned. They didn't really use union monsters in the way they were meant to, but instead did something else that worked out incredibly well. And the original XYZ monsters are getting new retrains that make them function even better. The problem is that some of the support being printed here masquerading as generic union monster support is actually only for XYZ Light Machine monsters. So I feel that Darkblade is deserving of similar retrains. While I would love it if the monsters could just stay the same and get more support around them, there's only so much you can do with an 1800 vanilla. It's all about the thematics of a monster rather than the card itself. A new version of Darkblade, Pitch Black Dragon, and Kiryu would be great, as well as two fusion monsters, one to be a new version of the Black Dragon and the other one to finally give us the Kiryu fusion as well. The only thing is that I don't know how well we would be able to make some of them stand out as union monsters, unless you really focus in on that mechanic. Maybe a field spell could also help out, but I honestly would prefer if the Darkblade retrain equipped with the Pitch Black Dragon retrain gained enough attack and effects to serve as its own boss monster. But I wouldn't be opposed to just using them as the basis of another fusion deck as long as it has the same feeling of the Swordmaster jumping onto the backs of dragons to fly into battle. We could even get a new version of King of Yami Makai, because apparently he's part of the lore now. Maybe it could be something to help search out Darkblade or the other pieces. And heck, as long as you keep Darkblade as the single unifying monster, you could even just make other dragons and other fusions with different effects. Really though, I feel like Konami doesn't know how to make union monsters work. The new decks that they make sure equip monsters to another, but that's often seen as a step between the start of a combo and then the end board. A card like Union Carrier doesn't even support Union monsters, it just equips any monster you want. Maybe the concept of Union monsters was just doomed from the start. Combining two monsters is a really cool idea, but doing so through fusion summoning always ends up being superior. I guess my main point with this video was to take a look back at Darkblade and show off just how much he had going on for him, basically being the face of a mechanic that has really fallen out of style. It isn't some forgotten monster that needed to be brought back into a new archetype, it was the master of its own deck that I feel really needs a refresh altogether, and I feel like an individual retrain like we got with Darkblade Captain of the Evil World really just missed the point. Remaking Darkblade himself isn't enough, you really need to support all the other dragons that go along with him. I mostly love the idea of a dragon rider having multiple dragons he can command, and I think that would be a great way to go into the future that would best showcase it. So let me know what you think in the comments below about Darkblade and what ideas you have for additional support. I definitely remember playing it in my deck of random dragons and other cool things built from the pile of hand-me-down cards that started my collection. Though with there already being some form of Darkblade in the recent consciousness, I won't be holding my breath waiting for that Union monster support. But I can still dream. Anyway, this is Gatorax, thank you so much for watching and I'll catch you all later.